करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। गुकारस्तु अन्धकारो वै ऋकारस्त्वनिवर्तकः अन्धकारनिरोधित्वात् गुरुरित्यभिधीयते। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। नमः श्री शङ्करानन्द गुरुपादाम्बुजन्मने सविलास महामोह ग्राहग्रासैककर्मणे। So today we start the 13th chapter, the third of the fifth set of chapters called Brahmananda. So we've done two, today we start the number 3. So if you recall, the Brahmananda set has a common name called Brahmananda, means the Ananda, which it can be seen as either Brahmanasya Ananda. So you can say this is the sixth case, connection of the Brahman, or a better one would be Brahmaha eva Anandaha. Not the Brahman's Ananda, but the Brahma itself is Ananda. That is the real, this is what we have to really see. But for the time being, you can say Brahmasya Anandaha could be sadhana, and Brahma eva Anandaha is the sadhya. What is to be seen is sadhya, and the means to see it is the sadhana. So either way it could be, look at it. But anyway, the main heading of the last 5 set is Brahmananda, and out of them there are 5 chapters that have different sub-names. So number 11 is Yogananda. The number 12 is Atmananda. Number 13th is Advaitananda. Number 14th is Vidyananda. And the last one is Vishayananda. These are the main chapter headings. Okay, so to kind of make sure that we have the context about all these 5 chapters and so on, what we did in chapter 11, which is called Yogananda. So in Brahmananda, it's called Yogananda. Main heading is Brahmananda, subheading is Yogananda. In the Yogananda, so just to make sure that we have an overall view, there's a lot of details given in each of the chapters, no doubt. But I think if you extract the main principles that are being emphasized in these 5 chapters, we should try to remember those in the way we understand this. So in the Yogananda, the main concept was, one other thing I want to say before I go into it. So the Yogananda, Atmananda, Advaitananda, Vidyananda, Vishayananda, all these subheadings should be seen as methods to understand my real nature, Brahmananda. In that sense, they should be, I think, correctly viewed as sadhana. It is also, many of you, I think, must be familiar with this terminology. In Vedanta, we call it prakriya. So prakriya means a way of teaching is called prakriya. So it's slightly different from sadhana. Sadhana, they are pretty much the same bracket, but slightly different meaning than sadhana. Sadhana means the means to know. And prakriya is a particular viewpoint which aids the sadhana. So this is called prakriya. So an example of that would be that if we were to tell someone about the differences between knowledge and experience, then one can take a experience of a setting sun or that of the seeming blue color of the space. And that is a prakriya. How to explain that? So the difference between knowledge and experience being that the sun is setting. Knowledge is the sun doesn't set, the sun stays where it is. It is the movement of the earth that makes the sun look as though it is setting. That is knowledge. Experience is that the sun is setting. So in this case, this distinction between them is called prakriya. So in that manner, each of the 5 chapters is really a prakriya very close to sadhana. This is a method of understanding. Okay, having explained the general structure, now let's look at the 11th chapter, the Yogananda. So the prakriya used in the Yogananda, sadhana actually you can even say the means to understand Brahmananda, is that you can systematically be yourself by withdrawing from the world. Really, this is what yoga teaches. This is what yoga teaches, as you know, and does a very good job of teaching this methodology. But it says that at this moment you are part of the external world. When you start the whole process, you are really just involved with and therefore a part and parcel of the jagat, the continuously moving set of experiences called jagat. You are very much part of it. You know, you can say, I was thinking and then something interrupted and then I am doing this. All of this is nothing but an involvement of the jagat. This is the outside. And of course that brings a lot of problems, worries, discomfort, triumphs also. Sometimes you accomplish something, you feel good. That is also part of the experience of the world. But in any case, you are externalized your existence. You are very much part of the whole experience of living. And then they say in yoga that you can now try to withdraw it from the external world. And really the best way to do that is to shape your thoughts so that it is not running around doing things or reacting and so on. Probably the first thing to do is to close your eyes. And of course there is no guarantee that your mind is not running amok. Sometimes it happens as an experience that when you are transacting with the world, your mind is okay, but when you start meditating, the mind reminds you of a lot of problems that you didn't even think about, and you're upset. Hey, I'm just trying to meditate, the mind says, I don't know, I never get your attention, here's the set of problems. So by closing the eyes, it doesn't mean that your mind will become quiet, but chances are that it will lead to a quietened mind, a withdrawn mind. And as you go through the process of yama, niyama, etc., the Ashtanga Yoga, what you are doing is to withdraw your participation from the world systematically, and you stay within yourself as you are, quiet, peaceful, and happy. And this whole process is called Yogananda. And this can be characterized in Vedanta by the word called ekagrata. Ekagrata means that you become single-pointed, absorbed in the enjoyment of the self, and this can be done systematically. Exactly what we do in our preparation for meditation, as you know, that we say, please sit down. Now you just observe your sense organs, this organ of touch, and then you begin to scan the body to see where some sources of tension is stored. Like that we go through. I'm not going to go through all the steps, but we have done that. And what it is just a simplified view of Yogananda. And what you find is that one big advantage of doing Yogananda is that your normal view that I will only be happy if I am engaged with the world is proven to be untrue. Because you find that I'm not doing anything and I'm just being myself, quiet, relatively thoughtless, in control of everything, and I feel good. I feel okay. So it's not necessary that I watch the news and do this and all those kinds of things. This is what my normal view is. In fact, this is something that I saw in Swami Akhandanandaji's writings, and it was very striking to me. He says, sometimes he has these. We'll go through this in more detail when we have some time, especially when we do the Mandukya Upanishad with Karika. Just absolutely a beautiful exposition of that. Anyway, one of the things he just kind of casually pointed out, I would say not casually, but on the side, it was not the main topic. And that really struck me as a very important part, and it strikes true to me. What he said was that in normal view, what a person does, normal view means a ignorant view, ignorant view of looking at the world, normal and ignorant. 99.9999% of the people, this is what they do. What do they do? He says that it's an inverted pyramid. How? Because if you examine your life and how we lead it, most of our attention is in the Jagrat Avastha, in the waking world. Isn't it? Because we are involved with unfinished work from yesterday, finishing it today to the best of our knowledge, worrying about the future. This is what the externality is. This is all about the waking state, the Jagrata Avastha. This is our main focus. If you view your life, it is all about what you do during the waking state, isn't it? Then, when it comes to the dream state, Swapnavastha, you don't pay much attention to it. You're not quite sure why do we have to go through this very long process of the Swapnavastha. But so you say, that's not too important for me. Whatever happens, happens, it's so on and so forth. The main thing is the waking state. And thirdly, sleep is sort of like, okay, I'm happy to rest and regenerate my energies and rest my limbs and so on and so forth, but that's not what life is. If any happily engaged person, I think I told you the story that a friend of mine who made a lot of money early on, 40, 50 years ago, very few Indians really had struck gold in terms of their work. And this friend of mine was an exception. So much so that even he had no problems in getting audience of the President of the United States. He was such an entrepreneur and so on. A very close friend of mine, still is. And I remember him telling me that I don't want to go to sleep. He says, I'm having so much fun in my life. I'm accomplishing so much. I'm so well engaged with everything that it seems like why should I go to sleep? He says, I only work extremely tired. My eyes kind of close down. And the moment I'm awake, I just get out of the bed and start my life. Perhaps a little bit more of an exaggeration, but not exaggeration, but more of an extreme case. But most of us really don't think much about the sleep. The main thing is, so the inverted pyramid is Jagrata Avastha first, Swapna Avastha second, Sushupti Avastha number 3. Waking, dream, sleep. Swami Akhandananda says the following. This is just incredible. He says, if you want freedom means not have to go through this very cumbersome taking, dying and being born again, how long it takes for you to become somewhat adult and independent, and then the life becomes very meaningful to you, and then pretty soon the life is over. So this whole process of marana janma, dying, born. When you escape this and really take off and become free, if you really want to do that, Swami Akhandananda points out, you will invert the pyramid. Again, how so? Your sense of inquiry, your attention, your focus, your serious pursuit will be to explore the nature of deep sleep more and more. And there is so much to be learned. It's not just a question of just, going to sleep and doing nothing. How does that happen? What happens? Who am I when I'm asleep? What's left there? The mind is not there, the body is not there. What is left? Why? That must be something very... So this is where the vichara, the inquiry, the thinking of the wise person should be. All right, so that can be done. Then you go to Swapnavastha. And as the Mandukya Karika points out, it's something like just like an advice. You go to a wise person for some advice and say, so, Swamiji, I am doing this. What do you think I should do? All those, you have some issues, problems in life, etc. If the Swami is to really help you, you know what he would say? If I were you, my dear, I would say, if I were you, I would spend more time analyzing the dream avastha than Jagrata avastha. This is what he said. So the waking state, you act to survive somehow. Because it does needs in nutrition. You cannot have nutrition when you are dreaming. So the sthula sharira, the gross body, has to be fed. And then you already have a lot of relationships. You have a spouse, you have children, you have sisters, brothers, etc. All of that you have. You can't just walk away from there. You can't say, oh no, I'm not paying any attention to you. You'll have problems. So you have to go through that. But any discretionary time that you have, when no one is really requiring you to do that, what do you do? Well, what we do is very, very normal and very foolish. We explore more and more, what movie should I see, what book should I read, and what places should I visit, what kind of food I should eat, what entertainment, what are the songs, Netflix, this, that, or the other. This is what I do. And the wisdom says, where does it get you? You got to see where you're going. If you want to just enjoy for a while, it's okay, but then where does it leave you with? It doesn't. And so the advice to spend more time analyzing the dream, it doesn't mean that you are saying, oh my God, what kind of a dream did I have? That's not what we are saying. That is stupid. No, it's not what we do. What should be done is to study the whole process of dreaming and draw lessons from it and recognize that the waking state is nothing but a dream. And there's a lot of lessons to be learned from them. And one of the lessons is don't take things seriously. They're not going to last. Don't even worry about your own family and so on and so forth. They're all going to be disassociated, just like in a dream. So who should I worry about? What should I do? Aha! This is what you need to do. You need to see that you are independent of all your experiences. This is Paramatma, this is the Ishvara, this is God, this is you. You have to explore that. Look into what does it mean to get your life wrapped around that. That would lead you to moksha. So anyway, so the recommendation is to do you have the wisdom and the courage to do this? If you don't have it, then please continue. And you will then don't complain and suffer. What else can we do? Our sympathies. But if you are a dhiraha, if you are a wise and brave person, dhiraha, the word dhira that we have used so many times, you will invert this whole thing. This is what we need to do. What a great advice. When I saw, this could be given in different ways, Karika, etc., and Upanishads, and study this in details, and so on and so forth. But to encapsulate it in something so stark, so strong, so simple to grasp was amazing. And I've been getting a lot of these kinds of things in my study of Swami Akhandananda, these books. Just amazing. I don't know why I couldn't get to do it before. He says, reverse the whole process. Great. Anyway, so these are the prakriyas. So we were discussing Yogananda. So the Yogananda was discussed, chapter 11 was, that you learn to withdraw from the externality and just stay within yourself and appreciate that you are okay. You don't need the external world. And one other thing, this is still a sadhana, this is still a prakriya. Just by quietening your mind, we have said this is our central thesis of distinguishing Vedanta from yoga, is that just quietening your mind and approaching nirvikalpa samadhi is not the ultimate. That's not it. It gives you an experience of the ultimate, but you do not become the ultimate by doing this. Why not? This should be very clear to us. And I can just put it this way, that you are still dependent on the samadhi. You see this clearly. You're peaceful, you're happy, you have no thoughts and so on, and you feel this is so wonderful. And then what's the next thought? I hope I can do this again and again. Therein lies the foolishness. That means you are dependent on having that experience. You are a slave to the experience. Don't you see that's not freedom? It isn't. You're still dependent on it. And as we've studied it before, that people that have a wonderful samadhi become even more irritable when they come out of it. Why did I have to come out of it? You blame somebody, you blame yourself or someone else, and the noise and telephone and this, that, or the other. I wish I could go back to this. Slave, you're still dependent. That's not the final thing. Samadhi is not what we are asking for. You approach it and you see what the beauty is, and now you need to have the wisdom to figure out what is that beauty, who are you? And so a number of things then will come as we will discuss it today. So anyway, we can wrap up chapter 11. The subject of chapter 11, which is called Yogananda, which is a very systematic way of withdrawing from the world and enjoying the thoughtlessness of the Atma. This is called Yogananda. Okay? Then, if you remember, when we introduced chapter 12, which we took only in a couple of classes, I think 2 or 3 classes, don't remember exactly how many, what you said was, what the reason for the chapter 12, which is Atmananda, was, this is too difficult for me to do. I cannot spend so much, I don't have the training, I don't have the discipline, I don't have the background to do this Yogananda as you are. All I can do is I have 10 minutes in the morning before I have to go to work, and I just close my eyes and I do this. Clearly that's not enough. I need to continue to do more of it, and I don't have it. Or whatever it is that somehow I'm not successful in really enjoying the samadhi that the Yogananda talks about to the extent that I want. So what's my situation? What do I do? I'm still at the beginning point. I understand the advantages, but I can't seem to get there. That was the case. That was posed as the question in the very first verse of the 12th chapter. So here Swami Vidyaranya says, okay, I understand. I sympathize with you. Many of us were like that. I'll give you a simpler way of getting prepared. A simpler prakriya, just like Yogananda is also a prakriya, I'll give you Atmananda as a prakriya so that you can approach the final destination in an easier way. Just like supposing there is a very steep hill and they say that is really the right way to go, but if you are old and you cannot climb that steeply, you will say, can you please give me a circuitous view where I can go there more slowly? And says, okay, yes, we have another way that you can take. That is what is called Atmananda. And what is the Atmananda? It was detailed. Atmananda, instead of relying on ekagrata, which was chapter 11's main focus, it relies on viveka. Ultimately, both are necessary. But if you are incapable of ekagrata, then try viveka. What do you mean by trying viveka? So, the chapter 12 very beautifully pointed out that try to achieve the truth about yourself by observing how you continue to mislead yourself. You continue to be self-deceptive. And you need to see how you are deceiving yourself. And if you continue to work on this identification of self-deception, you will discover the centrality of your own self to everything that you are doing. So that's another way to withdraw from the headlong engagement with the world because of your self-deception, and see how the truth of what you are doing manifests itself, which is nothing but, the whole life is nothing but an expression of your own self. Your own self is the central part of your life, much more so than you even realize. And that self-deception comes from viveka. Very simply, we saw all of that, all the discussions about the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad and Yajnavalkya talking to Maitreyi and so on and saying, listen, my dear, you think you love someone else when in fact your love for someone else is only a reflection of your love for yourself. If you do not like someone, do not love someone, that also is a reflection of the love for yourself. There is no real love for anyone else other than yourself. And we are not saying become selfish and only be concerned about yourself. What we are instead saying, I'm just repeating all the lessons of 12, what we are saying is you are already doing it and don't realize it. See what is happening? You pretend as though you are loving someone else. But pretension doesn't get you anywhere. Truth gets you someplace. And in a reflection of the love for yourself is the love for Parameshwara. It is not the isolation Jivatma that you love, but you love Atma per se, because you like the pleased self, free of conflicts, non-conflicting. And so, the Atmananda was a prakriya that systematically asks you to be aware of your continuous self-deception and observe what do you ultimately love. And when you keep doing it, you will see when you're truthful about yourself, you stop pretending, you stop brainwashing yourself into thinking, I love everybody else, I love this, and so on. You see people and saying, you know, I don't worry about myself, I only worry about others. Self-deception. You can say anything you want to. And so that, what that does is, this is the prakriya, that all roads lead to the Atma. So this was the essence of Atmananda in the 12th chapter, a different prakriya. And we had some variations of it and some details to be covered and so on and so forth, but in essence that's exactly what it was. Okay. So now we begin chapter 13 and seeing what the central theme of the 13 is. Let's look at that. So now the question occurs, that the Yogananda is not being dismissed here, or is it? So we say, no, it's not being dismissed. That is, in fact, we're just giving you an enhanced view of what things are. Okay, good. I understand that, and I'm happy that you're not abandoning Yogananda with all the things that it talks about. No, we are not abandoning it. Good. But you're saying that there is a certain viveka required when you are engaged with the world, isn't it? This is the question. This is the person who is trying to understand the reason for chapter number 13. He or she is saying that, listen, you are with the Atmananda, in the Yogananda, there is no engagement with the world because you are just quietly sitting there. So that question doesn't even come up in the Yogananda. But in the Atmananda, aren't you saying that you are doing a viveka of the external world and how you're engaged with it? So we say yes, we are doing that. It's not like though when you're sitting down quietly, you're engaging with the world. Okay, then the person says, then I have a question. So you're saying that ekagrata and viveka both are useful in this. So we say yes, both are useful. Then my question is, the questioner says, when you're doing viveka, you are articulating two sides, another person and you, and how the love for the other person in fact is a reflection upon the love for yourself. Are you not? So we say yes, we are. So there are two entities involved, the other person and you? Yes, two entities involved in that score. Then you're saying that those differences will remain. You have not eliminated the difference. At least in the Yogananda you had eliminated the differences, but in Atmananda you have not eliminated the differences. And so it is a Dvaita view, not an Advaita view. How is that going to lead to Ananda? Because you've already segmented yourself as being different from others, and Shruti itself points out that as long as there is even a slight difference between others and you will never be happy. See, this is a very fact. Really speaking, the most happiest moments of my life is when I become non-different from someone. It's like, for example, your spouse. And so when you're embraced, even physical embracing or mental embracing, that means that you don't have any difference with he or she. And you feel very happy about it. It's our experience. As long as there is a conflict between the spouses, you cannot be happy. That means that she or he separate from me. It's very obvious. So we say, yeah, that's true. So he says, now there is a problem. Because in the Viveka there are two parties, and it's a Dvaita view, not an Advaita view. So what do you say to that? So to answer that question, that doubt, is the reason for the chapter number 13. Okay? So here, now we go through a systematic looking at what appears to be different from each other is not. So in the beginning, yes, doing the viveka of the Ananda, there appears to be two parties, But the more you look into it, one of them is real, the other one is not real. And you cannot compare the unreal as being something different from you. Isn't it? So when you go to a mirror, there are two of you, but there's not two of you, there's only one of you. So that way of looking at things and so on is being explored in the in the chapter number 13. So this is why it is called Advaita Ananda. Now you see at least the reason for the title. Advaita Ananda means that it really is only one, not two. Dvaitam na vidyate yasya saha advaitaha. And how this is done, what are the implications, what is your lifestyle, how you should look upon this and so on, is the subject of the 13th chapter, which we are going to now begin. Okay? So now, the first thing is, so this is given in verse number 5, if you're counting on the chapter number 13. There is a beginning which says, that the Atma Ananda, Atmananda, same thing as Yogananda, really all of them are the same, they are just different prakriyas. Atmananda is not only the cause for Ananda, which is called Nimitta Karanam. See, this is exactly what we had sort of talked about in chapters number 11 and 12, that the basic cause of your happiness is your own self. So in that way, the cause can be looked upon as Nimitta Karanam. So Nimitta Karanam means the one who is the architect, one that causes your happiness. The reason for your happiness is the Atma. The source of your happiness is the Atma. Just like you can say that the person who makes a beautiful clay pot, you see some really marvelous creation of a pot, clay pot, and you say, wow, I wonder who made it. And then you'll say, oh, that's our favorite person here sitting in our shop. He has so much experience, he comes out with these beautiful forms of clay pots. Oh my goodness, that intelligence and that knowledge and that skill is what is called Nimitta Karanam. So now here we say that Atma is not only a Nimitta Karanam. Of course it is a Nimitta Karanam, but it is also the Upadana Karanam, which is not true of the pot maker and the pot, because the pot maker is not made out of clay. He has to import the clay from someone else and shape it. So the Upadana Karana means the material cause. What material is used in the formation of these shapes? Clay. So he has to get the clay from someone, he has to do some work on making sure that it is amenable, has the right kind of moisture in it, and etc. But the material is different from him. Here, however, the Ananda that we speak of is not only the Nimitta Karanam but also the Upadana Karanam. It's all the material cause. This is a view that Vedanta is unique in having, and one which one has to truly understand in order to become free. That I am not only the Nimitta Karanam of my happiness, but I am also the Upadana Karanam of my happiness. Means that my Swarupa is Ananda. The material that I am made out of is Ananda. And that Ananda material is what is used to be making all of my forms of my life. So this starting point is important, that Paramatma, same thing, Paramatma and Jivatma, so only one Atma, is Abhinna Nimitta Upadana Karanam. It is a non-differentiated cause and the material of any creation. So now we look at how the material causes can be looked upon in different ways. So there are three of them. One is called Parinama Upadana Karanam. One is Arambha Upadana Karanam. And the third one is Vivarta Upadana Karanam. So, and we need to understand all three of them at least briefly. We've already taken this up before, but in the context of this discussion, let's review it. Okay? So, there is a view by people, primarily between the Naiyayikas and the Vaisheshikas. Naiyayikas, Nyaya and Vishesha. So Nyaya and Vishesha are two sister views. They are alike, but they complement each other. There are some differences, but they are complementary to each other. And this is the view of the modern science and even the older science, what is called scientific inquiry, falls under this. This is Arambhaka Upadana Karanam. Arambhaka Upadana Karanam means that when you have, let's say, a seed that sprouts into a sprout, which then becomes a flower or a tree and grows into all these forms. In this transformation of a seed which is invisible, almost invisible, you can see the seed, but there is no visibility of the differentiation. And only when it sprouts you can see, aha, you add some water into it. It's just phenomenal how you can take, your dal, Indian dal, pulses, can be staying in your jar as an inert object for years. And then when you want to make some sprouts, you can simply put it in, add some water into it and just leave it. And you find that this little seed which was invisible becomes bulkier and bulkier, absorbs the water, and pretty soon some branches come out. And so the whole process, okay, we know that. So here the Arambaka people say that each stage of the emancipation of the seed, externalization of the seed, is a new beginning. The seedness is destroyed and it becomes a sprout. Sproutness is destroyed and a new beginning takes place when it becomes a plant. Small plant becomes destroyed and a big plant, tree, comes out of it. So this is how it is. I don't understand why you are not agreeing with it. That means there is a beginning of each stage. This is what we call arambha. This is the upadana karana. Okay? Then there is another view, which is yoga and sankhya. Yoga and sankhya. So Patanjali and Kapila are the original rishis that conceived of that. They say no. It is not arambhakanam, it is not beginning, it is what is called parimanam. It means transformation. So it is not as though the karya with the effect is completely different from the karana. It is just that the karana evolves into karya. The cause evolves into the effect. So the seed, it is really the karana itself which takes a different form. Not a different object altogether. It appears very different, but it is really the same thing as the ability to change itself, called parinama. And most of the time it is one way. You cannot go, you can generate a seed from a tree. That's a different thing altogether. This is how perpetuation comes about. But as far as that particular tree is concerned, it is, you cannot say, okay, I made a mistake, I want to go back to become a seed. You can't do that. It is already transformed. And so the parinama is simply an evolution. This is what they believe. And there are some differences about yoga and sankhya. There's some, one is Ishvara has done it, the other one it happens automatically. That we will study someplace else. We have already studied that. So those are the 6 ones. Then becomes Vedantins. And the Vedantins say we don't accept either one of them. How can you not accept either one of them? Because we say that change is only vivarta, not parinama, not arambha. It is vivarta. What do you mean by vivarta? We've already talked about this many times. Without giving up the original form, it appears to take a different form. Swaswarupa apparityagena rupantara apattiti vivartatvam. Swaswarupa apparityagena. It has, without giving up its own swarupa, rupantara apattihi. Some different roop becomes apparent, is called vivarta. And in life, everything is basically vivarta. From a samashti standpoint, it is vivarta. From a Vyashti standpoint, I can see Parinama and Arambha. So for instance, so the Vivarta example is that of clay becoming a clay pot. As you know, this is nothing new for you, that really the clay never gives up its clayness. No matter what kind of a pot you can make it out of it, the clayness never leaves. It is the same as ever. And if the pot breaks, even all the pieces of the pot, they remain as clay. And you try to make them into dusty thing, yes, it will still same as clay. No, clay does not go anywhere. Okay, so even though that is the case, on a samashti level, on a vyashti level, I can see parinama. On an individualistic level, I can see parinama. But if you put it all together, it can only be vivarta. How? So we can see that the milk becoming yogurt is parinama. Because once the milk becomes yogurt, it cannot go back to the being milk. But that's just at the localized level. If you now look at the entirety of it, what you will see is that the basic material of the creation does not transform itself. It is really that remains the same. It appears to transform itself. It appears, it is an appearance, as we've been saying. There's no real change. It just is an appearance. So just like, for example, the snake is not a new thing out of the rope. It is really just nothing but an appearance. And the latest example that I'm very fond of it, the blueness of the sky. It is not a change. Similarly, the blackness of the sky at night time is not any kind of a change. It is just an appearance. The blueness is an appearance. The cloudiness of the akasha is an appearance. Smogness of the akasha is an appearance. All these are appearances. Nothing affects the sky itself. And so it is not as though the sky has become blue, or it has become muddy, or it has become dark. No. These are superimpositions on the basic thing. So similarly, the Atma never really transforms itself, because, how can we say that? Because it is niravayava. It has no parts to it. Atma is the same, niramshaha. It does not have any parts. It has no changes. You cannot cut it. Niramshaha, niravayavaha. And so how can it appears to be all different? Because I am older, I am younger, all these are different ones. So this is all, they say that if the Atma is niravayava, niramshaha, nityaha, moksharupaha, shuddhaha, muktaha, then how does it all these things happen? If you think I am that Atma, and you are, but I take myself to be a waker, to a male, a female, all those kinds of things. So, this is not an external imposition on me, but it is my own power. My own power to visualize myself as being many-faceted. It is not someone doing anything to me. It is my own Maya Shakti that allows me to become many. And this is confirmed by every night when I dream. One person becomes many persons. That Shakti, so that's Avidya Shakti or the Maya Shakti, is mine. So, sometimes you say Maya Shakti means as though somebody is bothering you from outside and so on. No. So this is Ishvara has engaged. It is really my Ananda, my Atma and so on is nothing but Parameshvara. It's only one source of Chetana, of consciousness that everybody has. And everybody has that Maya Shakti, which has the ability to project myself to be many. I have that ability. And that ability is the one that causes problems for me. I have that ability, and unless I recognize the reality of this power, this Shakti, I can be engaged in, I can be limited by it and get into a problem. So this is how the Vivarta Upadana Karanam works, and we will see more details of this, which is the Vedantic view of the Upadana Karanam, in our next class, which will be next week. And so we will continue with this in terms of these, not only my Swarupa, but my Swabhava, not only my me as a person, but my personality. When I put some things on top of myself and project myself as many, which is an example of a dream, but this needs to be looked into. And once I see this, how am I projecting myself, then I have a better idea of seeing myself as non-projecting, complete, purnaha. So that discussion we will continue, and that is the central point of the chapter number 13th, which is Advaitananda. Okay, so with that I close today's class. Om Asato Ma Satkamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityor Ma Amritam Gamaya Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Yes, I think, Verena, you're right. That is exactly what the situation is. That the ability to love someone else is a reflection of the recognition of the person as being non-different from your own self. Yes, very much so. So I totally agree with you. So wonderful to see you all, and we will have another class next week, and after that we will have a little bit of a break. So I think I sent you a WhatsApp message. Hope you got that. So with that, I close today's class. Thank you. Hari Om.